Hello. Hello, hello. Well, look who's here today. We have some regulars, so I'm going to say hello. Joni, I didn't get to read your email yet, but looks juicy. Thank you. Carrie, Jan, Loretta, Barbara. Hi, Barbara. There's Chris. Nice to see you, Chris. Garth and I have already said hello. Debbie with the sun, the rainbow in the background. Catherine, nice to have you here again. Lanny from Arizona. And then from long ago and far away, Leslie. It's nice to see you again. And Loretta, did I say hi? And then, yes. And then there's Lynn. Hey, Lynn. It's good to have you here. Oh, wait. And Rochelle. Hello, Rochelle.
We
Well,
finally
what's that?
we find
I know. Look at this. It only took a while, but as with all things, I guess. Well, welcome. For those of you that haven't been before, I always go for hopefully it's quick and painless. I like to do a quick and painless review of what's going on here. So we're meeting almost every week. Sometimes I'm away, I'm traveling. What can I do? But we meet most weeks of the year, and sometimes people drop in just once or twice and never again. And some people come regularly, and some people come irregularly. And typically this is kind of a dynamic space where there's some consistent elements, but then they're often organized differently. So usually there's some kind of a uh, experiential element, a guided meditation, a prayer, both. Um, Usually there's a theme, and I talk about it sometimes for a long time and sometimes more briefly. And then typically there's some interactive element, which is either you and I sharing questions and talking together, or maybe people going around the room and saying something if it's a smaller group. And in some cases, we even do breakout rooms. And we don't do that a lot anymore, but sometimes we do. So there you go. That's the spiel. And oh, here's a question. How can I hear your meditation from 2 weeks ago? So I'm going to ask Garth. Oh, and there's Teresa again. Hello, Teresa. I'm going to ask Garth to put in the chat a recommendation for how to find the past episodes because they are posted on Humanities Team, and if I'm perfectly honest, I've never checked. I just trust Garth completely. He's always there for me more than he can say for me about him. But I know they're there, Lanny, so we'll figure that out. Oh, and I see Joan has joined us, and there's Christina. So welcome. There you go. That's our big spiel. There's not a lot otherwise that I'm covering in terms of setup. A lot of you know that I have a book coming out in 20 days, which I'm pretty excited about, Spiritual Experience, and it will influence our conversations forever. But I wonder if there's anything anybody needs or wants to ask or clarify before we take a breath, slow down, and get into it. While I pause to see if anyone else has a question, I will say, and I don't often enough thank Humanities Team for hosting this, but if you've never explored their offerings, the free ones and the membership-based ones, it's phenomenal. It is really like a streaming service for the soul. And the annual membership is like a shadow of what most of us are paying for other similar services. But all the content is around conscious living, spiritual awakening, personal growth, new perspectives on just about anything and everything, technology, nutrition, relationships, God, talking to the spirits, whatever you can think of. So it's pretty cool. And I'm fortunate to be a part of the gang. So Anybody? Anything? You just ready to go? All right. In that case, let's. Okay. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a little moment to get centered with a shorter kind of prayerful moment and then a bit of a guided meditation. And it will set the stage for our conversation. So, join us if you can, if you like, if you will. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes wherever you are. For me, I like to sit comfortably but alert. I like to put my one hand on my heart. Feels like a calming energy and reminding me to be connected to my heart more than my thinking distracted mind. I like to put a hand on my belly, which also is comforting and soothing, but again, reminds me to stay centered, grounded. And then I'm going to invite you to take a deep, deep, deep breath in through your nose and hold it. Notice your body. Is there tension? Is there tightness? And when you're ready, breathe it out through your mouth. Long, long, slow, exaggerated release. And today I'm going to invite you to do 4, starting now, with 4 clear intentions. The first, breathing in, holding the breath, and again, focusing on the body, any tension, tightness, illness, weariness, anything you want to let go of. And then you're going to breathe it out. Imagine the energy of that, the feeling of that, the reality of that released as you breathe out, breathe out. Let your body soften, exhale extremely. And then you'll do the same with your mind, noticing any unwelcome thoughts or thoughts that need to rest. You'll do the same with your emotional condition and your mood. So each time, breathing in, holding, observing, releasing. Mental, emotional, eventually getting to the spiritual. And even then, what are you attracted to, identifying with? Let that go as well. You can use this exercise lots of ways. Big breath in through the nose, hold your breath, and simply focus your attention on something that needs your attention. Imbalance, balance, problems, challenges, whatever it is. And then moving to the energy and the consciousness of letting go. And when you've worked through as many of these cycles as you can or want to, you can kind of conclude by drawing in a final intentional big breath with the affirmation that you're drawing in all the life force, love, and energy that you need, holding your breath as you let that energy commingle inside each and every cell of your body. And then when you're ready, breathing out your impulse to control, to be attached, to know. And finally, let yourself simply sit quietly in the energy of surrender, noticing stillness and silence. Noticing the way the silent space around you is the same silent space around me, around each of us. With our eyes closed and our hearts open, we are in the same space together. And extending that reflection, the silence in the vastest of deserts, in the deepest of space, the silence that fills each and every home, even beneath the sounds and noises of daily life. We are sensing the presence of spirit and life that is everywhere, always. And it is here in us, with us, around us, uniting us right now. And from this place, we open our minds, each in our own way, but together as one, in prayerfulness, calling, wishing, affirming, intending, however you need to feel it. As I offer the words to create space for the prayers most important to you. From the heart of this existence to this existence itself, our mystery, our source, our divine light and love, to this oneness we call God, Spirit, consciousness. We are grateful, grateful for another day in this human journey, whatever it may bring, another day for the soul's evolution in love and health, learning, letting go. We pray in this moment that each in our own way we would release all that is known and unknown in ourselves, that keeps us from our wholeness, that keeps us from our connection, that keeps us from each other. We offer all the stuckness, all the blocks and barriers and burdens to the light. And we welcome each of us the abundant love and light of this world into ourselves right now, that we may feel this healing wholeness, even just a moment. The light of this mystery filling us from the tips of our toes to the top of our heads and the edges of our body and beyond. May we see the light beings that we are and be grateful. And from this place of safety and balance and knowing, may we courageously also acknowledge the pain, the suffering, the imbalance, the injustice in this world. And we send our blessings to any person, place, or situation that you feel called to help or heal or uplift. Together, we hold this world in light and love, that we might all, each in our own way, one step at a time, endlessly move towards wholeness and the remembering of our shared identity. And so we pray for peace where there is war. We pray for peace where there is struggle. We pray for peace where there is conflict and violence, cruelty, disconnect. And we pray for this earth, all the creatures and forces and elements and beings. They may be vibrant and vital, protected and uplifted, and we may learn to live together in harmony and health. And we give thanks that we have this prayer and know that it matters. For all these things and the hopes and prayers and wishes that remain unspoken in your heart, we lift them together as one and we say, Amen. And I invite you to keep your eyes closed. Stay in your calm and your stillness. And I'm inviting you now to explore the way the world lives inside you and the way you live inside the world. And so this meditation, this reflection is somewhat simple, somewhat complicated. I invite you to notice anything in this world that calls for your love and healing energy. Like, what is it that goes on in this world that you feel needs to be helped or fixed or changed, whatever that may be? Could be something as close as a neighbor or even your own body. Could be something on the other side of the planet. And when you bring to mind whatever these things are, or this thing is, ask yourself if you can find how the same thing lives in you. And what does it look like? So if it's war in the world, is there a war anywhere inside yourself, in your mind, in your emotional world, in your personal feelings about someone or something? If it's some kind of breakdown or habitat loss, if something's not being nurtured or protected, can you find something in yourself, in your life, in your body, in your relationships that shares that quality? It's not being nurtured, it's not being protected. So just take a moment and explore things outside yourself that you would like to see helped, healed, fixed, or changed. And then notice where they live inside you or how the same dynamic lives in you. See if you can find connections and correlations. And when you find it in yourself, can you love it, accept it, and forgive it? And you may, if you're able, you may even ask the question, well, why? Why does it live there? Why is it a part of you? Is there something, this aspect of yourself is trying to teach you? Or is there something it's doing for you, protecting you from being hurt, maybe trying to advance your needs? It's just a reflection. You don't have to do it perfectly. You can pick one thing or move through a bunch of things. Something in the world, find it in yourself, accept it, love it, forgive it, and then be curious. Why do I carry this? Why do I do this? How does it serve me? And take your time. These things don't need to come to grand conclusions or end with a great feeling of closure. Just allow yourself to notice the way life around us lives within us. And then when you're ready, you can come on back to the room, to the group. So I recognize that this kind of an exercise that we finished with is not exactly the kind that everyone can do equally. We don't all have the same visualization style, and we don't all have the same capacity for reflection. Some of us think faster and some of us think slower, and that's all fine. But I would love to invite some sharing because I think, well, because absolutely everything that you did for yourself today, in case it wasn't implicitly clear, you've done for all of us. When we begin outside and see it within, or we begin within and see it outside, that simple exercise in itself facilitates a few important things. So if it wasn't clear yet, I'm going to try to make it clear. Maybe you can explore it later. The first is to remember that there is really no such thing as them. There is really no such thing as other. There are some things in this world that are so foreign, so abhorrent, so repulsive, so violent, that it is understandably and rightfully difficult to see ourselves in them. And yet, when we look for a correlate inside ourselves, we can usually find something. A way that we do violence to ourself, a way that we don't honor ourself, a way that we neglect a part of ourself, or maybe have, right? Maybe this isn't a moment with a lot going on, but we certainly have. Or we see it really close to us, someone we love. So it's in our immediate orbit. Another dimension of this is about diminishing judgment and recognizing that the patterns of the world around us are the patterns of the world within us. And in that way, all things are acceptable, lovable, forgivable, although that doesn't mean we should endorse them, tolerate them, feed them, promote them, right? So if I want to bring peace to a situation, I have to start by accepting the situation as it is. I can't start from some place I want it to be. I have to start from the place it is. And if it's war, it's war. If it's rejection, it's rejection. If it's betrayal, it's betrayal. And I can lead with hatred, but that will only create more of what I'm trying to address. So I can invite some love, whatever measure of forgiveness, and then be curious. And that's the place where we have the capacity to change these things that are out of balance, that are um, not in alignment with the way of our universe, that are not loving, that are dividing. So, this is, in fact, a tricky sort of practice to reflect on the inside outside dynamic because, ironically, it's the very impulse to reject the things that hurt us or scare us that at some level perpetuates them. And our capacity to acknowledge, and maybe acknowledge is a better word for some of you than accept, because accept sounds like, you know, you give it a gold star. It's not what we're talking about, but you acknowledge its existence. To give love to something, we've distorted, right? Like we only love things we like. We only love things that are good for us. We only love things that are safe. We only love things that are going to love us back in the way we want to be loved. Like, how's that working? Not good, right? So we're practicing some hard stuff here. Loving everything, not as in liking everything, as in loving everything. And then exploring how to bring peace to this energy. And if consciousness is, as most of us feel, holographic or fractal, meaning that which is in me is in the world, and is in the world is in me, and each is radiating into each other. And we can get all crazy and talk about quantum entanglement, and if I heal my particles, your particles will heal, and all this kind of stuff. Well, then this work matters. All of your self-discovery matters, and your self-healing matters, and your personal growth matters, both for those of us that are going to make active changes in the world, but if nothing less, because we can make active changes in ourselves. So I'm going to stop the reflection there, and I'm going to share a quick example of something that came up for me, and it's just one example, and maybe a few of you could share your examples. So I thought about lots of things: war, presidential elections. I'm not going to go there. But I did, and one thing in particular that I was looking at was ecology. And for me, without getting into a lot of detail, maybe to role model being focused, um, I was reflecting on or feeling my way into habitat loss and species extinction. And then I was looking at myself and I was thinking, I'll be honest, I was thinking for a moment, like, what the hell does that look like inside me? And I realized how often throughout my life I have not protected aspects of myself that feel important or vulnerable in favor of just simply serving another agenda, which is really what most environmental degradation is. It's like, yeah, forest is great, but timber's profitable, right? Habitats are wonderful for endangered species, but a village turning into a city is pretty great. And I think that throughout my life, I've allowed myself to compromise to serve an agenda that feels unstoppable. So there you go. That was my little cycle. And I was like, oh shit. Well, if I do that in myself, well, then of course people are going to do that with forests they never see and grasslands they've never visited. It's hardly as significant as the self. And yet, obviously, it's one and the same. So that was an example. I wonder if somebody else would like to share an insight, a feeling, a specific example you worked through, or I'm just gonna pick someone. Who's gonna go? Jan, are you ready? See you putting your glasses on.
So I can see who else is here.
Oh,
I I was kind of hoping you wouldn't pick on me, but it's divine order that you did, so I'm gonna try it. Um, I was thinking of the division in our country.
mhm.
How some people believe one thing and some people believe another, and how the two don't get together, and how do you choose and how do you get them together? And so then I was, and political divisions, especially, I was thinking of. So then I looked in myself to see what division there is. And what I'm aware of right now, with what I'm dealing with my life right now, is do I want to live or do I want to die?
Hmm.
Um, and some of you know my oncologist told me 7 months ago that I was going to be dead within 6 months because I have progressive cancer. So I've been preparing to die. And yet, in the last 2 months, I've gone on a new protocol and my cancer has regressed a little bit. And so now all of a sudden, because I was preparing to die, I was thinking, oh, I've had a good life. I can accept death. I was moving in that direction. And now all of a sudden, do I want to live? Could I move in that direction? And so it feels like a division in me of not knowing what direction I want to focus on.
Hmm. Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's profound just to hold and witness what you're going through without totally needing to make sense of it. And yet, my immediate thought is, wow, like, isn't that interesting that if something that fundamental can divide oneself, just something as essential as living and dying, like, holy cow, I guess it's understandable that people can't, that people are struggling with forces outside themselves, you know? Because reconciliation's not as easy as it appears, right? Hmm. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
So the only thing I would share with you before we go to the group is if you didn't get a chance to do it, to take the time to go back to this, hold this tension, and then to love the tension itself and forgive the tension itself. Because my sense is both sides have meaning and value and importance. And the answer may be somewhere, you know, between them or something that merges out of them together. I don't know, but
And I, what else, I could say something else about it, because in reality it's not my choice whether I live or die.
mm,
So I'm finding a way to embrace both at the same time,
hmm
and accept whatever happens, and really, um, because I believe in divine order, and that there's something much bigger than me in charge here. And I think that also relates to the division that I feel uncomfortable about in our country.
yeah.
That it's not something that I have any control over, but that there is a divine order and there is someone else that has some influence here, something larger than myself that I need to trust. So in both situations, it leads me to trust whatever is larger than myself, that my own personal vision is much too small.
Mm. Wow. Thank you, Jan. And I'm tempted to censor myself, but I'm going to say this anyway. you know, what I picture listening to you is how rare it is. Let's use the political example. And I know not everyone on the calls in the United States, but still, how rare it is to enter a room with such divided parties and for everyone to begin with the agreement that everyone's right. Everyone's right. There's no question. You look at the division, and of course, everyone is absolutely right. How do I know? Well, just ask them. And that has to be the starting point, or they're not going to engage the dialogue and they won't relax enough to allow another way to unfold, which is kind of what I read between the lines and what I hear, which is, well, there is another order that's going to prevail. And the way to align yourself and be ready for it most quickly is to hold the tension of the extremes. Well, we could go far with this, but let's invite someone else to jump in, and thank you, Jan, for being so brave, even though I picked on you. Now, did I see somebody else's hand go up? Did your hand go up, Joni? Or Dick? Sorry. Go ahead, Dick. Jump in.
Yeah, thank you.
And welcome.
Hi, sorry I'm late, and wow, what perfect timing for me to jump in that meditation and then to hear Jan. It's like, wow, it's profound. Um, yeah, the example I was going to give up that came up in my meditation, and it came up last night, and I did some journaling on it, kind of interviewed it, is for me. I mean, I've got the political things going on, the world things going too, but personally, and this is embarrassing to admit, I've had since I was very small this strong internal mental inclination to beat myself up for doing things wrong or not good enough or being bad enough or too stupid or too thin or too whatever it is. And it's not just a mild beating myself up. I mean, I can, if I mean, even this morning I was working on some electrical switches, and there was this temptation, well, you dumb shit, it can't you run, and it's violent. I can even, kind of punch myself sometimes. It's that visceral. So this is really timely for me because I just did some work with it last night, and they've got a lot of shame around it. So it's good to open it up to others, and I am powerless over it. And one little thing popped into me after I did my journaling on it is like, well, just when I get into this impatience, go, and this is where a little tricky. I don't quite know. Am I fighting it or am I accepting it? Slow down even more. I mean, is that enough to reprogram my brain saying, well, if you're going to get angry at yourself, then we're going to go even slower. I don't know if that's a game I'm playing with myself or not, but the internal rage, it's actually rage at times, is there. It's not, it's not there all the time, but when one comes up, so anyway, it's I'm having difficulty holding it in a healthy way, in a way that is supportive to my own energy. And I get to see that I get anxious with other people, or mad at them. They should do this, they should be that way, dress this way, or whatever. But not as much as I do with myself. So anyway, I don't want to take up more time, but welcome to hear some comments or feedback as well. Thanks.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for being so brave and honest. I think that's phenomenal, and humbling. I don't want to, well, I will share if, you kind of said you're open to this. A few things come to me. One, and this may not all be about you, Dick, so I'm sorry if this is more for others, but maybe you can pick through these thoughts. The first is that I often find when I'm working with people one-on-one that it's very hard to find the motivation to gather the energy necessary to heal something in ourselves, for ourselves. However, many of us would actually do more for others than we would for ourselves. We'd be more forgiving for others. We'd be more willing to help with others. And actually, sorry, because it's now personal. And I've seen that in you, Dick. I've seen you be a fantastic leader and very patient and supportive and inquisitive. And I hear what you're saying is, well, you're just not always like that with yourself. And so one of the tricks I've played on myself and helped other people to play for themselves is, maybe stop trying to do it for your, maybe stop trying to fix this for yourself. But when it shows up, make it an offering for the world. If there's one battle I cannot feed, well, what'll it just be this one? Not even for your own good, not because you deserve it, but just to contribute to the world itself. One less fight, one less caustic remark, one less act of violence. Just don't feed it in service of something greater. The other thing that actually comes up for me, and I think this may be resonant for a lot of people, this has been something significant in my life, is that we've grown up in a culture with such an obsession with the mind, like most of us. A culture that's so oriented around ideas and solutions and knowing and understanding that we often feel like we cannot or will not love or engage an aspect of ourselves or a problem we're facing until we understand it better, until we can make sense of why we're doing it or explain it. And the challenge with that is that I don't think all of this is easily explainable. So much of what and who we are is energetic, is unconscious, is subconscious. And true love, the love that we're capable of, all of us, is not near its fulfillment if it always needs answers, if it always needs justifications. In some ways, that's not really loving to me.
This is the boss directory. Please leave your message after the tone.
Oh,
Thank you.
I thought someone was asking a question. I was going to say, oh, speak up, but that was an answering machine. And so the way I relate this, Stick, for what you were saying, and maybe it's not that helpful, and maybe if we go to a couple more people and hear what they're going through, maybe it's going to come back for you. But I like what you said about slowing down. I like what you said about it's like in the moment I feel that aggression start against myself, I don't even need to understand it. I don't even need to explain it. I don't even need to know where it comes from. I just need to slow down and forgive myself in that moment. And maybe that's all there is, just to see what happens when that happens, to just forgive, 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 forgive. And probably, as you know, I know you know this, there is some place deep in the past where there was a moment of and I would bet many of us have this, and I think I have a bit of this too. There was a moment in life where we just didn't feel lovable as we are. And not only did we not feel lovable, but it came at some cost, right? Something that we perceived as profoundly threatening. So it's charged. It's a very charged feeling. So when we don't measure up, when we don't get it right, it feels like something much more than failure. It feels dangerous, and it feels like the affirmation that we are unlovable.
It's abandonment.
Right. And you deserve, every time you screw up, you prove that you deserve it. But it's not true. We know that intellectually. And the only way to change that, well, not the only way, one of the steps I think you're onto, which is take a breath, slow down. And remember I said in the exercise, why is that feeling there? What's it trying to do? Well, I think that's trying to protect you. It doesn't, as an adult, it's not working out very well. But there was a moment that energy showed up to protect you and say, fuck this, but you're not the one that deserves the fight. So I love that you shared that, and thank you. I think slowing down, accepting, forgiving and loving seems like a lot of work, and see where it goes. It's cool. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Someone else, and don't feel too scared. Like we're gonna dig into your psyche. Each one of us can have very different things and share at the level you want. Now, I see Debbie's hand is up, although I do want to acknowledge Alan came in a little bit late, but hi, Alan. It's nice to see you. Yes, and it was nice to see you on LinkedIn. So I just wanted to acknowledge you. All right, Debbie, what's up?
Okay. I have a few things. The first two are for Jan, and congratulations to her that she has understood that doctors are not gods. And it seems to me that perhaps she did make her decision between life because you chose life and you chose the fact to let the divine intervene when it was proper for you. So I think it's quite interesting, a lot of the comments you made, and I understand that it's a very, very difficult situation for you now, but you have a lot of strength there that you showed the group. Secondly, I got hung up on your centering exercise more so than your meditation. And the reason being, I have a question for you. I want to know, is it always necessary to know what we need to discard? Because
Mm.
saying to think about the known and the unknown that you have and turn it over to the light. I had this image of a box and I began putting things in there, and I knew it was my faults and all the things I've done wrong and so forth. And I tied it up in this rope and I lifted it up, as you said, lift it up to the light, you said, which I did do. But what surprised me was I got an even bigger box with not a rope, but a very beautiful ribbon that was returned to me. And I knew that it was a box that didn't indicate just myself, that this was for, it was on there, gifts to be revealed. In other words, I don't know what is in the box, but it made me think that maybe we're not all separate as we're trying to go through all these episodes of, like you say, using our mind to understand and have awareness. Maybe we just need the awareness that we do have faults, and maybe we should give it over, these faults, whatever you have, and expect them to be returned with gifts of some sort, and or some hopeful thing. And I wondered if I did the meditation over again, and would I be able to create another box and put all the things in, and would I still receive a box back? And how long would I have to do that instead of really facing all of my faults by just recognizing that I have them and getting rid of them? Because I know many times in the work that I've done that if you're opened up and you don't have anything to replace that or support that, it's not helpful at all. You're just opening this energy up and it's just going everywhere. And so my question is, do we really have to go through every little thing, or can we just trust that it will be taken care of?
I
And when we
love.
point, does healing occur?
Yeah.
And healing occur more for just ourselves when we get rid of something? Maybe a little piece of the wholeness of the world is being healed as we're giving up our suffering or faults to be transformed. That's my thought.
Yes, I love that question. And for some reason, my mind wants to answer it. This is going to seem a little left field for you. I'm sorry, but my mind wants to answer this in a kind of cultural framing. So we're going to do the West, Indigenous world, and the East,
Mm.
generalizing from my opinion. So from the Western perspective, I would say there's a value to be able to name as much as you can for the purpose of intentional change, behavior modification, not feeding things that aren't good for us, and making the subconscious conscious. There's a value to that, for sure. To your point, is that the whole story, though? Is that really most important? And I would say in the indigenous world, what I experienced was the opposite, which is no, don't try to name it all. Don't try to label it all. Don't try to make everything into something. It's enough to know that there's dis-ease, disharmony, discomfort. And yes, I would say in the indigenous world and in many energy therapy systems, the mental language around it doesn't matter. That it's enough. And I actually, and we talked about this previously when Joni brought it up. I mean, I did a practice for years where every day I would do this kind of meditative ritual releasing of anything that is not of the light into the light. Anything that's, but I never named it. My shame, my fear, my financial worries. No, just anything that's not of the light, I release into the light. And yes, so to answer you shortly, yes, I think that's absolutely a beautiful way to hold it. I absolutely think it makes a difference. And I don't think the first, if you are touched by that culture of naming, I don't think it's complete unless it's complemented by the ability to also release that which is unnamed and release that which is unknown. You know, interestingly, and I think this is just important enough that I'm taking the time for this. You know, one of the things that I did experience over the decades in Indigenous communities and ceremonies was that so rarely was there a lot of mental discourse about why a ceremony was being done or what the healing needed to address. An imbalance is an imbalance. A shift in energy is a shift in energy. Over intellectualizing it in many communities was even seen as counterproductive. Now, I'm not saying that today, I'm just giving views, but it was seen as counterproductive because it was almost giving those forms of energy that we want to shift too much structure, too much identity. And suddenly we can even become attached to those. Oh, well, I am, you know, this diagnosis. I am this limit. I am this shame. I am this. And so in many of those settings, it was like, we don't need to know. You're here for healing. Let's ask for healing. And let's let that which is beyond the mind do the healing of the things that are ultimately beyond the mind. And then the Eastern view that is so profound to kind of hold the two together, naming, not naming, knowing, not knowing, is the kind of spacious consciousness that can kind of hold it all with non-attachment. In other words, you know, the Buddhist phrase, you know, all form is emptiness and emptiness is form. This idea that no matter what we're trying to sort out, fix, solve, or answer, it's all small in the vastness of time. And that vast perspective that, for example, Buddhism and Taoism bring allow us to work on the dynamics that you named, but with kind of a light heart and not worrying too much about getting it right, but getting it right for now and not worrying about things being true, but things being truthful and understanding, you know, it's sort of cliche, but doing our best is really the best we can do. Doesn't sound like it, but it's true. So yeah, I think what you brought up was really important. And I wish for the world that we could do more healing work without labeling and naming everything and trusting that if there's an energy to heal and an energy to release, if there's an energy to balance and an energy to restore, we can trust it. Yeah, I think that's right on. Now we're just about ready to say goodbye and wrap up. I wonder if anyone just has any kind of final thoughts or questions. Oh, Leona's hand is in the air. Is something simple for us, Leona?
Yeah, so am I unmuted, correct?
We hear you.
Okay. I just want to point out that when you talk about the conflict or the tension internal that you see outside in the world, that one that I often experience is with regard to relationships. So I find within myself, I have this conflict about wanting to be close to people and at the same time wanting to protect myself. So I pull away. It's kind of like that dance, you know? And I see that played out outside of me because people also, you know, dance or follow my lead to some respect,
Hmm.
or they have their own internal conflict. So even if I'm advancing, they're deciding that they want to retreat for their own protection. So I find this conflict in relationships quite a bit, and what. So sometimes I say, you know what? It's not important to me. This person wants to do a waltz, and I don't like waltzes, so I'm just going to not bother trying to pick up their rhythm. I'll go somewhere else. So in some cases, I just remove it from something I'm, trying to achieve. I just say, no, I won't bother. And in some instances, it's so complicated. This is having to do with my brother passed away, and there's this very complicated estate in Italy that's still going on. And finally, I just say to myself, I just came across this SFGTD, something for God to do.
Mm-hmm.
And some things, it was just so, this is such a mess. I don't care to invest the energy that it's going to take to fix it, even if it means I don't get the money. It's no longer worth it to me. It has taken up so much of my energy and has been so frustrating, and that I don't care anymore. So anyway, I just wanted to share those two things.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful for that also. And I was trying to remember, I heard this really, I was just looking here because I had a note. I heard this really wonderful saying not that long ago about overthinking. And god dang it, I can't remember what it is and I can't find it fast enough. But I think what you're sharing just represents an example of this place we're coming to close on, which is I don't hear you saying that when it feels important to learn something, I don't want to learn it. I think when we see patterns, when we feel reactive, it's worth looking, it's worth exploring. On the other hand, it can become a kind of addiction. It can become a kind of habit. And to your point, sometimes it's just okay to know something's not for you, right? When you go for ice cream and you get all the flavors presented, and you're like, oh, today I feel like whatever, strawberry banana swirl, and you go with a dear friend and you don't normally get that. You normally get, it's like, this doesn't need to be a big discussion. It's just, yeah, today I feel like strawberry swirl. Like, so what I appreciate so much about what you're saying is, yeah, sometimes we overthink things and it's okay. If you don't feel like engaging in a dance, no harm, no foul. And the important piece on that holds it is we don't lose the lessons when it's time to learn. So we keep a little attention there. And what I loved about what you shared, we don't have to make other people wrong either. It's just like, I'm just done. You know, you can keep going with this, or this might still not be fixed, but I just know in myself, I've lost my energy for this. I've done the best I can. And now this is S, F, G, T, F, O, or whatever the heck you said. This is something for God to figure out. Which seems like a nice note to end on, because whatever question you didn't get to ask, well, apparently it's something for God to figure out. I'm really grateful everyone came today, and I'm not able to read the chats as we go because I get too distracted. Although I did see Joan's pop up, and Joan, you're right. I think there were some really powerful things here today. Thank you so much for the familiar faces coming back. Thank you so much for new faces joining us. And you know, every week we're here, so we're either together or we're sharing some. If for some reason I'm not here, we're sharing videos and a chance to connect as a group. So maybe we'll see you soon. Oh, and of course, I should be saying, reminding everyone, don't forget, spiritual experience, pre-order now. That's all I got. Okay, thank you very much. Lots of love, and I'll catch you guys later.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.